Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber. It's Monday. You know what that means. That means we speak with Mr. Greg Dickerson. How you doing, sir?
Doing great, Michael. How are you today?
I'm doing well, man. Hey, one of the things I knew I wanted to talk to you about since Saturday. I think on Saturday I saw that the ETF, or at least the first ETF for Bitcoin, was going to be approved. They're saying it's supposed to be starting trading tomorrow, but I don't really know what it means. Again, you are an entrepreneur, you're a trader, you're in and out of markets. You watch Bitcoin. I do not. So I'm curious, what does a Bitcoin ETF mean for kind of the average person, not a crypto person, not somebody that's day trading or in that, but just an average Joe, doesn't own any. What's a Bitcoin ETF mean, perhaps?
So there's a couple of different types. This one is not what is known as a spot ETF. In other words, it's not an ETF that's going to own actual physical Bitcoin.
Ah,
It's a futures ETF. So it's an exchange traded fund that is going to trade futures contracts. So,
got it.
futures contracts is a whole different ball game. It's a speculative asset, probably going to be used more by like hedge funds, traders, options traders, things like that. But in general, what an exchange traded fund is, it's usually a collection of things,
Mhm.
or if it's like a spot, it can hold, actual Bitcoin. And what that would do is that there are companies and there are investors and institutions that cannot, because of mandate and compliance and things like that, they can't own physical Bitcoin because of custody issues and, all these different things,
Mhm.
but they can own stock, which
Mm.
in an exchange traded fund that trades that. So what the industry is really waiting for is a spot Bitcoin spot exchange traded fund and an
Okay.
Ethereum spot exchange traded fund. That is going to be a game changer where institutions, pension funds, sovereign wealth
Mm.
funds, life insurance companies, that's when those entities can come in at scale versus just a futures
Mm.
speculative fund, which can drive the price wildly up and down.
That is amazing. So that's great information. See, again, I don't track this, don't know what's going on. So again, the one that's supposedly trading tomorrow is a futures market. So they're not going to own any physical or spot Bitcoin.
Yeah,
Do
they're
you,
just trading futures contracts, and the market's really pumped in
Mhm.
advance of this. So the real question is, are we going to see a big sell-off? Buy the rumor, sell the news kind of event like we've seen on a couple occasions,
Yeah,
or is this going to continue to kind of sustain momentum? So, a lot of questions in the market right now for Bitcoin because it had its highest weekly close ever
yeah,
this past week. Sunday is the closing, and it's pushing all-time highs again. So it's tricky territory right now.
that's interesting. So I have to ask, given the difference between a futures ETF and a spot ETF, I think you said it, but I just want to make sure there are people or companies or whatever they are that are applying to actually have a spot ETF, or are they not doing that?
Yeah, like Grayscale,
Yeah.
Bitcoin Trust, Michael Saylor, his organization, MicroStrategy, they've created an entity to hold their Bitcoin. They might convert that to an ETF at some point.
Hmm.
Kathy Wood has applied for one.
Oh,
So
wow.
there are companies that have applied for actual spot, Bitcoin ETFs. But right now, the three or four that are on the table are futures,
Okay.
which, you can already kind of trade those at the CME,
Okay.
options. You can trade options.
Yeah. So again, so when I heard this, I wasn't sure if this was like, hey, it's a sign that crypto, or more specifically, maybe a sign that Bitcoin is more I don't know. It's to be appreciated, right? It's not fake news, if you will, right? If the
Yeah,
SEC, the
mainstream,
mainstream, that's the word. Yeah.
yeah, mainstream, and the problem with a futures ETF is that it's very speculative and it's meant for short term. It's not a long term thing,
Yeah.
but it is a step in the right direction for the industry as a whole. So the
Okay.
SEC and the CFTC, the federal government has come out and said, look, we're not going to try to ban cryptocurrencies or anything like that. They want to regulate it, which is
Hmm.
good for the industry,
Hmm.
so that other entities and institutions can come into the game. But they need to understand what are the rules, what are the compliance issues, taxes, all these different things. And there is a lot of fraud, there's a lot of manipulation, there's a lot of insider trading going on in the industry right
For
now.
sure.
So there needs to be some regulation, but the same thing happens in the stock market. Regulation doesn't stop all that.
Hmm.
It doesn't stop the bad actors, but it can help kind of tail it in a little bit. But the real big game changer that what the industry is trying to get to is where anybody, the average 80-year-old retiree, can just open up an app and buy some, Bitcoin,
Mhm.
through an ETF versus having to worry about a wallet, taking it offline, putting it in cold storage like you've
Yeah.
done with yours.
Yep.
That's complicated for a lot of people to have to deal with. I mean, exchanges like Coinbase, Kraken, those guys make it easier nowadays, but there's still risk to
Mhm.
those things in terms of holding the physical asset versus putting it into your own offline cold storage. And there's risks to that as well.
Mhm.
So with a ETF, I mean, it's just, you can open any, Schwab or E-Trade or Robinhood or whatever and buy and trade these things, which you
Yeah.
can do with Bitcoin now as well. But even Robinhood's not a spot thing; it's more of a fund
Yeah.
kind of
So
nature.
this is really interesting. So I guess I know we're not, we don't, your crystal ball is as broken as everyone else, but these people are applying for a spot ETF now. So it's possible that some gets approved in the next 6 to 12 months, maybe. Because I think with Bitcoin specifically, that changes the game, right? That 21 million unit cap. When you get the real big boys coming in and trading ETFs, that's a whole lot of demand, I think.
Yeah, potentially. That's the whole idea, is that, the quantity is limited, the big money has yet to enter the space, period. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of other options for people to invest in. And I think, I don't know how far Bitcoin's price can go and at what point institutions say, I'm just not buying that at that price,
Right.
because the higher it goes, the bigger your downside risk goes.
Yeah, of course.
And it's still a new asset. And as it changes and evolves, it's going to become new. And
Mhm.
there's all kinds of price chart projections out there. But there's other alternatives for these funds to invest in. And there's going to be more, alternative funds created for the different assets like Ethereum, like, Cardano,
Mhm.
Solano,
Yeah.
all these other different products that are out there and projects that are out there. So I don't know ultimately what the industry is going to look like, but right now there's several entities that are scheduled for approval this month.
Mm.
And the SEC has already taken their liberty of delaying a couple of those decisions. And actually, they have not officially approved the ETF that's going to supposedly start trading tomorrow.
Mm.
And there is speculation that they might just let it happen and not approve it,
Oh,
that they might
interesting.
not stop it, but they might not approve it either. So they haven't actually, as of 11:09 Eastern Standard Time today, they
Interesting.
have not come out and said we approve this ETF. So, but it is good for the industry overall, as long as the price holds up. Now, it could be bad if this is just a head fake and
Mhm.
it's a buy the rumor, sell the news, and the market tanks after this thing goes
Yeah.
live tomorrow. If it goes live,
Yeah.
that could be very bad, for the
Yeah.
industry as a whole.
Yeah,
That wouldn't be
a
good.
rug pull or whatever you want to call it. I guess the last thing I'll talk to you about this topic again, Bitcoin futures versus spot. Thank you for that. Is it fair to say that I think number two is Ethereum, that Ethereum would be right behind this, and if Bitcoin, given it's the largest market cap, I think it's over $1 trillion, that
Mhm.
then Ethereum would be next. Is that kind of a fair logic, or am I just out of touch?
No, that's next, and that's, most institutions are actually more interested in Ethereum than they are Bitcoin,
Mhm.
in terms of like the institutional investors, real institutional investors,
Mhm.
because they see more of a use case
Right.
for Ethereum than they do Bitcoin. Bitcoin is digital property; it's essentially a store of value.
Mhm.
It was created to be a currency, a peer-to-peer, currency without third parties, but that isn't efficient. And with something that has that much value, it doesn't really make sense to use it as a currency. It's more of a store of value, and it's digital property. That's how the IRS designates it. So Ethereum is more, has more use cases, more adaptability. Solano, Cardano. There's other competitors out there.
Mhm.
VeChain's another one that a lot of corporations are using for different things. So there's a
Cool.
lot of different technologies out there and tokens for investors to invest in. So this is the first step. So once this gets officially approved, then the next ones kind of fall behind. And as the industry evolves and grows, and we see regulation, there's just going to be more and more capital entering the space. And when you look at the investable capital around the world that's out there, it's huge in terms of the total market cap of crypto, where it could go. Bitcoin right now is the dominant crypto. Like you said, it's a little over $1 trillion. Dominance is probably close to 50% right now. The altcoin space takes up the rest of it, and that's spread out over a bunch. But
Hmm.
ETH is the number one of the altcoins. It
Okay.
takes up probably 15% of that space.
Wow. lots of stuff going on in this space. I will never go there, right? I got my little insurance policy. I am good, but you look at it, you follow it, you talk about it almost certainly weekly. So how can people follow your YouTube channel? Because it's amazing. That's where I go to get a lot of my data.
Yeah, it's gregdickerson.com. Everything, all my YouTube channel, podcast, all that social media links are all there. So go to gregdickerson.com. You can check it out. And yeah, I've been putting out some content about it. I'm kind of been holding right now to wait and see what it's going to do right now, because it's such a pivotal time. Nobody knows what's going to happen once this thing goes live. So it's really, really tricky right now. So I might post this one today if you make this one live first, so I can go ahead and get some information out there for people to look at and what to look for. But really fascinating times, and I would urge everybody, to if you don't know anything about the space, I'd start paying close attention to it, because some of these things are real, and they are going to be the future of our economic system moving forward. Some of these other things are just going to go away, and they're just flat out, like you say, rug pulls, meaning there's no team behind it, there's no use case behind it. They just issue a bunch of tokens, get a bunch of people in. It's almost like an IPO for a stock, and there's no company behind it. It's just an IPO offering of nothing.
Yeah, you remember I think they were called the pink sheets. Remember those back 20 years ago? Yeah, that pink sheets were something.
Oh, yeah, that's what the Wolf of Wall Street was selling.
Exactly, the pink sheets. You go get a company that's like at 1 cent. You talk it up, get a pretty story, and you sell it at $3.50, and you make 30,000% or something crazy. So yeah, pink sheets. That's what some of these crypto coins are, altcoins are. So pretty cool. Thank you for tracking it, because I won't. I know where my domain is, and I'm not going to look there. That's why I follow you. That's why I watch your YouTube channel. So thank you very much.